The United States is scrambling to contain the damage caused when an American soldier walked off his base to go house to house, killing villagers. The shooting rampage took place here in the village of Blandy. At least 16 people were killed in the slaughter, many of them children. President Barack Obama called Afghan President Hamid Karzai to express his condolences. Karzai called it, quote, an assassination and says it cannot be forgiven. The accused gunman, an Army staff sergeant, is in custody. He's originally from Fort Lewis in Washington State. CBS News consultant Jere joins us this morning. Jere has been in and out of Afghanistan for the past 30 years. Jere, good morning to you.
Good morning, John.
What has your experience been like in Afghanistan?
I lived with the Mujahideen as a newspaper reporter for the New York Times in the early 1980s. They were our allies then when they were fighting the Soviet Union. And most recently, I was kidnapped by the Taliban in the tribal zones of Pakistan when I was trying to find out to what degree the Taliban are like the Mujahideen, and also to find out perhaps what Americans could not find out about Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. So I've had experience on the ground in Afghanistan over a 30-year period.
So take me to the ground here in this village of Blandy. You question how something like this could even happen in the first place.
Right. I've been in the Army and I have observed a lot of soldiers in Afghanistan, and I find it very hard to believe that a U.S. soldier could carry a rifle, walk through a fire base by himself, and walk out that fire bases. There are guards all around. There are lights. There are shining lights to keep people away from there so the guards can see who is approaching. And he walked 500 yards to this village. This is clearly premeditated. Why didn't somebody see him? Where was his sergeant? Where were his squad members? Something very strange.
So what happened? What do you think happened? Is this maybe not a lone wolf incident, or just a case of oversight?
Perhaps. I find it very unusual that a soldier would be allowed to go like this alone. No soldiers in Afghanistan, American soldiers, travel anywhere alone. Even if they're going to meetings, they need an interpreter. Why didn't somebody stop him? Why didn't somebody question him? I do think there's more to this than we've seen thus far.
This is the kind of news that spreads quickly from village to village in Afghanistan. You said by now everybody there knows about it. How in danger, how at risk are American soldiers in Afghanistan right now?
They are in a much greater risk than they were one day ago. In the 1980s, what I observed was that in every Afghan village, and 99% of these villages do not have electricity, they do not have running water, but I discovered in the 1980s they had a radio. And they would listen to the BBC or the Voice of America. They followed the news. They knew very quickly what was going on in Afghanistan. Today, magnify that with a 24/7 news cycle coming not just from the United States, from the BBC or Voice of America, but from Afghan radio, Afghan television itself. Therefore, every single, in this non-literate society, every single person throughout Afghanistan and across the border in Pakistan knows, as you and I are sitting here tonight, that an American soldier walked armed into an Afghan village and killed unarmed civilians.
You have the Quran burning incident. That wasn't too long ago. 6 U.S. soldiers or Americans were killed in that incident. Well, the retaliation for this, which could be the worst incident in the U.S.-Afghan relation in the last 10 years of this war, could the retaliation for this be worse?
Good observation about this being the worst, perhaps, incident in the 10 years, over 10 years now that the United States has been there. Yes, it could. That is why General Allen, in charge of all U.S. and coalition forces in Afghanistan, said, in the same exact words that he said 2 or 3 weeks ago when he went on Afghan television after the Quran burning, and he said, "This is unacceptable to the noble people of Afghanistan." He is appealing to their sense of honor, to their sense of dignity. The United States must do all that it can to tampen down any possible uprising, because during the Quran incident, it was our allies in the Northern Alliance who were just as violently opposed to this. They're the ones that were demonstrating. Now we're in the Pashtun belt in the south, with Pashtun, largest ethnic group in Afghanistan. The Taliban are Pashtuns. Right now, the blood is very hot along the Afghan-Pakistani border in southern Afghanistan.
Before we go, does this speed up the exit strategy or the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan?
Too early to tell. That relies, the White House is going to have to make that decision. Yes, Newt Gingrich said that today. The Republican candidates may well say that, but Mitt Romney has said very clearly, we must kill our way to victory. We cannot appease the Afghans in every way. The GOP candidates are opposed to negotiations, are opposed to anything going on with the Taliban. I don't think that this is going to speed it up. I think, if anything, it's going to possibly make it more difficult for the United States to leave, because if we leave right now, the Taliban are going to come marching in, which is precisely one reason why President Karzai called it an assassination. He is not just worried about American soldiers, he's worried about his own life as well as trying to keep the Taliban not opposed to him, but on his side. And he is walking a very fine tightrope. It's an extremely difficult time for the United States and our allies in Afghanistan.
CBS News consultant Jere Van Dyke joining us this morning. Jere, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Terrell.